Hey Pennsylvania, it's Wine O'Clock on Wine Time PA. Join Rob, Holly, and Steve as they explore their home state of Pennsylvania and all the wonderful wineries it has to offer. Each month, they take a journey tasting the wines of PA. If you're able, pour a glass of your favorite wine and join us now for Wine Time.
Happy New Year and welcome to a new episode of Wine Time PA. I'm one of your hosts, Rob, and with me as always are my good friend Steve.
Hi, Rob.
And his wife, Holly.
Hi, everybody.
If you're new to our podcast, thank you for finding us and listening to us. And if you're a longtime listener, thank you for your continued support. If you're unfamiliar with this podcast, we are your three average ordinary wine drinkers who love to travel our state of Pennsylvania, visiting the wonderful wineries spread throughout the state, talk to you, our listeners, about the experiences we've had, and recommend some wines for you to try.
Yay, wine.
In this episode, we will be discussing Union Cellars, which is located about 4 miles outside the town of Lewisburg in the countryside. The winery is open 7 days a week, and you do not need a reservation to visit unless you are a group of 10 or more, and then you should reach out ahead of time. If you are a larger group and want to guarantee some seating, they do have some outdoor cabanas that you can rent that seat 8 to 12 people. They do have events throughout the year such as trivia, live music, bingo, movie nights, and those can take place throughout the year, but especially during the warmer months when you can take advantage of their beautiful outside settings. If this is something you are interested in, we recommend checking out their events page on their website or their social media. Everything from this episode is from our visit, which occurred in November of 2025, so information as you go forward in time may vary. We should also note this was not our first time visiting this winery, as we've stopped there a couple times in the past as we were visiting some other wineries in the area.
Yeah, gotta love those wine trails. They really kind of open our eyes to wineries we might not have otherwise stumbled across.
Yeah, we find some good ones that way.
Yeah, and this one wasn't on that wine trail, but it happened to be kind of in between a couple of those.
Yeah, it was
stops.
in between two.
And we stopped in there, and we've stopped a couple more times, and now we're going to talk about it.
We're not ones to pass a winery without stopping in for a drink.
We try not to anyway. So, Steve, why don't you give us a little history of Union Cellars?
Sure. Yeah, so this winery was opened by husband and wife duo Mark and Jillian Roberts. So we were told that, they first got into wine living in Texas and had mentioned, maybe returning to Pennsylvania where they had some family and they had a family farm. So they just sort of bought some neighboring land, or maybe they didn't buy it from the family? Or?
I think they had it for generations or
yeah,
something like
I thought they said the farm was in the generation. But
yeah, that's awesome. That's even better. So they transitioned it into growing grapes.
Yeah, just clarify us if we're wrong if you're listening.
Yeah, and then so they opened up in May of 2020, which, as you might recall, is a little problematic as we had that nice little pandemic going on. But
bold move.
Yeah, it didn't stop them. They had been planning for years, and they had a lot of community support in those early days, and they did some outdoor events, and it was enough to get them going, and here they are growing strong 5 years later. Actually, 6, depending on what time
you're listening to this.
So they have 3 acres of vineyard, and you can see it as you're driving up to their tasting room. The climate in this region is very similar to like Germany. You're going to see that with a lot of the types of wine or grapes that they grow on property. They grow Riesling, Gewürztraminer, Gruner Veltliner, Chambourcin, Cab Franc, Sauvignon Blanc, and Baco Noir, which is, one I don't see too often.
And you may hear more about these later.
Spoilers.
They also do outsource some grapes from Erie, New York, and Virginia, so it's still keeping in this regional, mid-Atlantic kind of feel. They do make all the wines on site, though, and it's just like this really nice, interesting property. I guess it used to be an auto body that they converted, but you wouldn't really know that by feeling, except for it's just a little industrial. It's got that really interesting, modern, industrial feel to it. It's nice place to just hang out, and you don't smell used car oil, so.
Yeah, when they told us it was an auto shop, I was like, okay, I can see it, because especially from the outside, because it does have a very, metal structure to it. It's a very larger metal building. But you're like you said, it does have a little bit of industrial feel, but they really did a good job of converting it. It's white metal. There's some black trim. It's really welcoming. So don't think you're going to go into this really sterile place. Yeah, there is still some signs, but still a welcoming place.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that had they not told us. But in hindsight, you can see some of the little subtleties that show that.
Yeah, in the inside when you walk in, it's a really nice open room, which I like. I like that it feels open and welcoming because they got these big windows and they really let the natural light shine in. There's a lot of good seating options with tables and chairs. They also had some couches, and I kind of was looking at the furniture and I was kind of looking at it. It was really nice mix. It was a little bit Art Deco, a little bit retro. There was even some bohemian feels and even some of those industrial nods. I love the fireplace too. It was recycled wood. I thought that was really nice and welcoming. But the star is the outdoors. It's just gorgeous. They had this really nice stone patio and a grassy area that you can find the cabanas that Rob had mentioned you can rent. And they also had some stone fire pits and some picnic tables. A lot of really good options. So the view outside is what you really want. When you're not just looking at the grapes, you're looking at this beautiful rolling countryside and the family farm and the mountains. It's just a really nice setting, and it's one of those places you can chill and relax for a few hours, which I really appreciate in a winery.
I do believe they also have some outdoor games like cornhole and things that you can do. It's kid friendly, so kids can come and hang out and play around out there too. So it's just a gorgeous setting. Unfortunately, we were there in the colder time of the year, so we didn't get to take advantage of that. But there were a few people sitting out there. It was a nicer day.
It was warmer that day for November. So yeah,
we've also been there in the warmth and enjoyed the outside. So
and they do have indoor games too. I saw.
Yes, they have some board games and card games and such that you can just take off the shelves and play as well. So now, as far as the wine goes, they do offer tasting flights. You can do a custom flight of 5 wines, and the pours were generous 1.5 to maybe 2 ounces. They were pretty generous with their pours.
Enough for us to share, so that says
easily for us to share. When we visited, they had 21 wines to try, and their tasting sheet listed them in recommended tasting order, but here's the breakdown. They had 3 sparkling wines, 3 dry whites and 1 off-dry white, 5 dry reds, 4 listed as semi-sweet, and 5 listed as sweet. Overall, it was a really good mix of dries and sweets, reds, whites, even a couple rosés that were mixed into the batch that's there. And a bottle of wine will cost you anywhere from $16 to $23, so very affordable for anybody who wants to come in and pick up a bottle. They also do have a wine club membership that if you are a part of, you can get a discount on your purchases. I know we've mentioned them a couple times on some various podcasts. Some of these wineries have these wine clubs, and certainly if this one was closer, I might have to partake in that wine club option.
Yeah, Holly and I have always talked about becoming wine club members, but I think we just like the variety that we get, especially because of this podcast. And we always struggle to just pick one winery and go with it.
Yeah, we can commit to each other, but we can't commit to just one wine.
Even in our local area, we can't commit to the one winery.
Very true.
Yeah, our favorite in the local one, it rotates every year. So in terms of food, we did see people at the winery with their own snacks, so we kind of assume that's not frowned upon, but we did forget to confirm that on our visit, so we're guessing it's fine.
Whoopsie.
Yeah, sorry about that. They do have some food to eat. They pretty much always have some light snacks like charcuterie, but then on the weekends they have an expanded menu that contains that same charcuterie and snacks, but also some warm appetizer type foods. So we tried the buffalo chicken dip that came with some really nice tortilla chips. They also had some hummus that came with some warm naan, and that was also very delicious. I think actually Rob liked that the most.
Which is surprising considering the next item you're about to mention.
Yeah, you're not as big of a naan and hummus person as I am, but...
Yeah, usually that's Holly and Steve are like, oh, naan, hummus. And
I was digging that so much that day.
It was good.
Yeah, and then they also had a really nice beer cheese that came with these warm, soft pretzel bites, and that was the hit for me that day.
I think that might have been
I'm from part of the state where pretzels are like their own food group. So I was excited for that, and I know we've had them in the past, and the food was just amazing.
I think we've had all 3 of those snacks on previous visits.
They're really good. So I would say not come full, but maybe come with a little room, especially in the weekend, to have some room for one of those snacks, because they are really good. That cheese especially, oh my gosh.
And even for the 3 of us, it was enough for us to just munch at, so they're decent sized portions as well.
Yeah, that was my lunch that day.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Really good. And if you're not into wine, or somebody in your group is not into wine, don't worry. They do offer a few other options. They had a list of roughly 9 craft beers that came from craft breweries across the state. And I have to say, it was a nice variety of the different types of beers, from like IPAs and lagers and things like that.
Yeah, we recognized a couple.
We did. Yeah, we did. And they had a couple seasonal ones, which I appreciated. You know, when you're there, especially because we were there at the end of like November.
Fall. That's the best season for craft beer.
Fall, holiday. I also think they had a spiked lemonade and a root beer drink made with spirits.
I missed that.
Yeah, and I didn't know if it was like pre-canned or if they made it on site. I did miss that part, but they did have something like that. And if you don't want alcohol, they did offer a couple of mocktails, which I always think is fun. And I also think we forgot to mention, and we need to mention, the labels on the wine bottles. They are amazing.
Yep.
They have this like U logo for Union in foil with some really cool art behind them and these deco patterns. And they're really nicely displayed in the store. You can see them on their website, but I mean, I personally love a good artistic label, so I wanted to make sure we gave a shout out to that while I was thinking about it.
Yeah, I actually appreciate too that the consistency. Every one of them had that U on there, and every one of them had some different design that made that particular wine stand out. But the consistency of that U, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there's still a consistency across the bottles with that, different colors, different little pictures and stuff, but that U makes it all come together and really blends well.
Good brand recognition.
Yeah, beautifully done.
All right. So let's take a pause here. We've talked a little bit about what you can expect when you get there. Now, let's talk about the wines themselves. As a reminder, these recommendations that we're about to give are based on our own personal tastes and preferences, and we are not compensated in any way for these recommendations. We also believe that you shouldn't worry about what other people think is good wine and just drink what you love. As usual, we'll start off by giving our 2 group picks. These are wines that the 3 of us all enjoyed and think could be good crowd pleasers. After that, we will share 2 personal wine picks that we each enjoyed. So, Holly, why don't you kick us off with the number 1 group pick and tell us something, and something tells me that we think this will be one that you really liked.
Yeah. I was really happy to see this as a group pick. It's not a secret in the past that I have mentioned I'm a fan of this wine, and I picked it myself. And I picked a couple wineries, but I think this is the first time it's been a group pick, and that is the Gruner Veltliner. I think I said it right this time.
I think you got it.
Or we just call it Gruner. Anyway, I was really excited. This was a great wine. I was really excited. You two loved it as well. It was a very super light yellow color. It was almost clear in some lights, actually. There were these really nice notes of lemon curd to the start that finished nicely with some grapefruit notes. It was light. It was crisp. It was refreshing. And I just think this is a really good crowd pleaser wine. Well, like I could see this being served at dinner parties and people just loving it.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I got some melon and lemon in the aroma, which I just sort of really appreciated that combination. And I found it to be very citrusy when we drank it, and it was that mostly lemon, but maybe a touch of other sort of citrusy fruits. And there was this like bit of creaminess that was sort of in there as well. It was almost subtle. If you weren't looking for it, you might miss it. And while it was this dry white with very low residual sugar, or 0, I can't remember.
0.
It kind of drank to me like a semi-dry because of that lightness and that fruitiness.
Actually, it's 0.2%.
0.2, yeah.
Yeah, basically
too.
0.
I was pretty sure it was 0. Then after I said that, I'm like, I should look at my tasting sheet again, notes, and I'm like, nope. Thanks, Rob. I was about to correct myself.
But this could be one that, like, even if you're not a fan of real dry wines, like there's enough fruitiness in there that gives you some fruit forward that it feels off dry. And I think it might be more enjoyable for, non-dry drinkers.
Yeah, I know I'm coming around to Gruner Veltliners as a wine that's more favorable for me. And I think even as we were at the winery that day, I think Colleen and I were debating whether like we were going to pick it as one of our own picks, and then Steve chimed in and was like, well, maybe we'll just make it a group pick because I really love this wine. It was probably my favorite, or tied with my number 1 pick, or one of my picks that I'll mention a little bit later. But yeah, I just love those dry whites with that citrusy notes in there. Just really is something I really enjoy. But yeah, I think this is a good crowd pleaser, like you said, with a dinner meal or just a little social gathering or just something to sip and enjoy while you're watching your favorite TV show or something. It's a great versatile wine, and I think it's a great group pick.
Yep.
So Steve, give us our number 2 group pick.
Will do. So that would be their Serendipity, which, love that name. So this is a sweet rosé with 6.6 residual sugars. So That's really not that sweet for a sweet wine. I think 5% is the cutoff, so it's just a little beyond that. So it's obviously a sweet wine, but it's not like
It's lower on the
syrupy
sweeter
sweet.
chart.
Yeah. Yeah, and the first thing that I just have to say about this wine is what an amazing aroma. I could have just smelled it all day long.
I agree. That I could have smelled it all day too. That was the first thing I noted, the smell. Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all had that note of just a wonderful aroma. And, what really made this one, I thought, pretty good, and especially for a sweeter wine, was that it was more of a passion fruit flavoring in there, which isn't something we see too often.
Yeah, that was my next note. It just had like that perfect amount of passion fruit flavor. So it was like, it's there, but it's not.
It wasn't overwhelming, yeah.
And passion fruit can be it's not one you come across a lot.
Right.
So you don't want to be overburdened by that flavor.
Right. And as a drier drinker, I appreciated this as a sweeter wine, and one that I certainly thought was drinkable at almost any occasion. And yeah, I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. I love the passion fruit that came through in it. Yeah, it is a little bit the sweeter side, but it's not super sweet. And I think this is the first time as a group we've picked any kind of a rosé.
I think so.
I think I'm one of the ones that tends to pick them more than the others of the group. But yeah, it was a really nice, pleasant wine from the start to the finish, from that smell to that last sip. Again, it might be one of those things in moderation,
Sure.
but it's still a really great wine.
All right. Well, those are our group picks. I'll kick us off with our individual picks. And so my first pick is going to be the Leon Millat. And I probably pronounced that wrong.
It might be Leon Malo if it's actually French, but I don't know.
I don't know. All I know is that this wine absolutely wowed me. And that's saying something, because this was a dry red wine. And the two of you know that I really enjoy dry reds, but when something wows me, that's saying something. And this one is a wine we've seen here or there, a couple places, but it's not a super common grape varietal that we'll see in wines. I did some research. It's a French-American hybrid of the Marchal Falk and the Gold Riesling, which the Gold Riesling itself is a hybrid of the Riesling and Muscat grape. So it's a hybrid of a hybrid of a,
It's like the nut of the wine.
But
I'm sure there's a few
in a good
of
way.
those.
In a good way.
But boy, did it just make an excellent wine. It had a beautiful rust red or a dark red coloring to it. There was, some hints of some sweetness up front. I don't know if it was like a cherry or like a red cherry or something, but it was just silky smooth, finished nicely with like very little to no tannins. I did pick up some hints of oak throughout it. It kind of reminded me of like a sweeter Merlot in some ways, like sweeter in the fruit sense, that is. And I also did notice that at the end of drinking this, there were some legs in the bottom of the glass. And, we've mentioned that before, that when you see that, it tends to represent a little bit higher alcohol content. So maybe drink this one with a little bit of moderation. But again, a dry red. I love dry reds, and this one wowed me. I bought a bottle of it, and it's the Leon Millat or Malo or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, I got some nice notes of cherry in that to go with the fruit that you had mentioned. And I found this to be smooth. And I actually said it was easy drinking. And for a dry red, I don't always find dry reds to be easy drinking. So it was a lovely wine.
So I really like this too. And I think what impressed me, as I'm reading the sheet here again, is it was aged in American oak for 12 months. And you, Steve especially, does not like American oak, especially if it's aged a long time.
Right.
And I'm the same way. Like, I don't mind it as much. Like, I can tolerate a lot more than you can. But when I read that and I saw cherry and 12 months American oak, I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. And then I drank it and I was like, I actually really like this wine. And I was like, wow, like the combo just worked well together. It was just both that cherry and oak were subtle enough that they were there, but they didn't overpower it. And I think it was just so smooth. It was just a well blended wine, that I just really enjoyed.
If you're not into dry reds, this might be a good one to get your palate wet with the Leon Millat.
Yeah. So I'll give off my first personal pick, and I think we're going to be kind of sticking to this red here, and it's a semi-sweet red, and I went with the Chambourcin. And it's interesting, this is also a French-American hybrid grape, and it's come up before. I don't think I've ever personally picked a Chambourcin. I think you guys have.
I think I've picked one.
I have. I used to really like Chambourcins. I'm getting out of them a little bit, but yeah, this one was good.
Yeah, and it was common. It's a very common grape in our state, and we've seen them done kind of drier and sweeter, and this one was done as a semi-sweet, and it was served chilled. And I don't know what that was, but that's what won me over. I really liked this, and I now only want semi-sweet or semi-sweet or semi-dry chilled Jamersons. It was smooth with lots of grapefruit smells and tastes, particularly plum. But I did get some hints of cherry. It had some really nice mild tannins in the finish that balanced out the sweetness really well that I enjoyed that day. And I was like drinking thinking, oh, I could go with this like a burger or something when I was drinking it. That was like my pairing note in my head.
Yeah, Chambersons are a fairly common varietal that we'll come across throughout the state, and I like them sometimes more mixed with other things, but this one on its own was pretty good, and yeah, it was definitely a sweeter one. I think I prefer it a little drier than the sweeter, but it was still a pleasant Chamberson, and those sweet notes in there were pretty good, and yeah, it's a good Chamberson.
Yeah, I agree. I had this as basically my fourth favorite of the day, so it was up there. I felt it was very cherry dominant, but not like Robitussin cherry, just almost like the fruit, and then yeah, definitely got some bits of plum. Yeah, I really like this. It didn't really have a lot of that pepperiness in the finish that tends to come with Chambersons, but yeah, I just thought this would be nice and pleasant.
Mm-hmm. All right, Steve, you got to change us up here. We've been talking reds now.
Yeah, I got you covered because I'm gonna pick the Sauv Blanc. So this is a dry white with 0% residual sugars. And you get that really typical grapefruity smell in the aroma, but also with some lemongrass. And that is opposed to lemon itself. And it kind of reminded me of some of my favorite Thai food. It's very lemony and smooth with just the perfect amount of acidity, at least for me. Probably a little low on Holly's spectrum, but
a little low on my spectrum.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I don't like an acidity-dominated wine, so this was nice. I also noticed, and it's funny I say this, it was less prickly than most Sauv Blancs. And when I say that, I know what I mean in my head, but I don't know how to really explain that, so take it with what you will.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of admit I'm in my Sauv Blanc era a little bit. You know, I've kind of moved a little bit away from the Pinot Grigio into the Sauv Blancs, and I did enjoy this one. It was unique in that you're right. Like, usually Sauv Blancs, grapefruit is very dominant if they're going to have fruit, you know, or there's lemon. The lemongrass was unique to that, and I did find it interesting.
Yeah, that was a nice, refreshing difference.
I do agree. For me personally, I think I would have liked just a little bit more acidity to it or something.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, it was still an enjoyable Sauv Blanc.
Yeah, Sauv Blancs are ones that are fast rising on my list as well, and maybe I'm hanging out with you too much, Holly, but I also thought it could use a little more acidity in there. But having said that, it was unique that it was more lemongrass than the grapefruit taste, and I like that grapefruit taste, but still a pleasant one. And you know, if you're a Sauv Blanc fan, give this one a try.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm getting in more into Sauv Blancs. I thought this was really well done. So I'll just continue us on with my number 2 pick, and that is the Razzling Rosé. So this is a semi-sweet rosé with 2% residual sugars, and I believe the base of this was Riesling, then with some raspberries, hence the name. What's funny is I got this beautiful aroma of strawberry and melon, and not raspberry. I don't know why, but I really liked the aroma. I thought it was like mild and refreshing. And it finishes very like off dry, but not like a red with tannins. It finished very nicely. And you got a lot of that fruitiness with some obvious raspberry flavor. I really found this to be like easy drinking. Probably because I like Rieslings, and this was just like a really nice combination. And with very low sugar, which I liked.
Yeah, I wasn't sure I'd like this one, but I did enjoy it. Like, it does start kind of sweet, because like that first sip, I was like, I don't know about this. But then there was that really nice tartness in the finish that I thought balanced it out well, and I actually did enjoy this wine.
Yeah, and it was the Riesling plus raspberry is the blend.
Good
for that.
Glad my notes were right.
I had that listed in there, but I really enjoyed this one actually. The combination wasn't super sweet, but it had that nice fruitiness in there, and yeah, that's a good pick, Steve. All right, for my second pick, I'm going to return back to dry red, and I'm going to go with the Cab Franc.
Yeah, that was a good pick.
And I was kind of debating which one I liked better, the Cab Franc or the Leon Malott, but I just decided to pick them both. I know they only had a few dry reds, and I didn't want to pick just all dry reds, but they really did. But here we are, and because their dry reds really did shine, I thought. And this one was just a classic Cab Franc. It was silky smooth, a little lighter body than most Cab Francs. Had some hints of sweetness, maybe plums or berries I got throughout the taste. Some subtle hints of oaks in there, but very little to like no tannins at the finish. And it just, it also had some fair amount of legs in the glass at the end, so maybe a little higher alcohol content, but really just a silky smooth Cab Franc and an easy one to drink. Pairs well with anything, steaks or burgers or just on its own.
Yeah, I really like this one too. This was probably my number 3 pick, so just ahead of that Chamberson. I definitely got plum in the aroma. I'm not 100% for me that it translated into the flavor, but seeing as that it's in the aroma, I could see how somebody could get that. And it just, very well done. It was just a little peppery, and it was smooth and easy to drink. Very good Cab Franc.
Yep, my notes kind of reiterate what you guys said. I put that it was a very smooth Cab Franc. I liked the hints of pepper, and that I thought it went very well with the buffalo chicken dip.
Yes, actually it did.
Yeah, I think I remember that combination too.
I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to try this little bit of spices. Let me try it with a little bit of spicy, the dip. And I was like, this pairs nicely together.
I think we got that before we got the hummus, because I think it would have probably paired well with the hummus.
Yeah, it might have. I think we got the hummus with our second round. So
Yeah, but it was good. That's what I noted. All right, so my second pick, and probably my favorite of the day, is the Blanc et Blanc.
Yeah,
And
I knew you were going to pick that even before we got there today. She's had this before, spoiler, and loved it then too.
Yes. So this is a dry, sparkling white wine made of the Saval and Vignoles grapes. It's a darker yellow in color, but it has a really nice fruit smell of peach and some nectarine. And I got the nectarine flavor when I started to drink it, but then it finished with the peach, and it's definitely more of like a stone peach flavor than it is like a peach cup flavor. It had really nice bubbles to it. I mean, I love a good sparkling wine. As mentioned, we've been to this winery a few times before, and it's one I get every time we go. It wasn't a surprise I'd pick it, as Steve had just said. I knew it was as long as they hadn't changed the recipe that much and it was still a good harvest, I knew this was going to be one of my picks because I love it. I think I've even bought a bottle of it before, and I think it's a definitely must try if you're a champagne or sparkling wine fans. I know we can't call it champagne if it doesn't come from France, but if you love those bubbly wines, this is one to try.
Yeah, I actually thought this one was really good too, not too acidic. And I love that I got these like subtle peach flavors in the finish.
Yeah.
That was very nice.
I will say this was probably one of the higher bubblies that I've ranked.
Yeah, Rob doesn't like bubblies.
I'm not a big bubbly fan, but I'm at a wedding or something and they serve that. I would have no problems drinking a glass or two of that. All right, so those are our picks. Do we have any other wines we want to just quickly shout out?
Sure, I'll shout out. And this one is seasonal, just a heads up. We were there in November. It's called Holiday Cheer. And obviously it's for the Christmas holidays. And it's one of those ones that smells of like spiced wine with like spices and orange peel. And it's one of those ones I wasn't sure I'd think about it. But the orange peel and the spices just blend so nicely together. And I think I've said this about other wines, but I get really excited when I can get Christmas in a bottle. I love Christmas in a bottle, and this is a good example of it. So if you're there around the holidays or they still have it, I would recommend giving it a try.
Yeah, that was lovely. I like that it didn't have too much clove. I like clove. I want to have clove. But it wasn't overpowering. Sometimes it's overpowering.
Yeah. The orange peel was balanced nicely with the spices in this one.
Yeah, really, it was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I had a couple of honorable mentions, but you guys then went and picked them, so...
Oh, well.
I think our tastes are all running together at this point.
I'll give a shout out to Dos Blancos.
Ooh, that's another good pick.
Which, if you're not familiar with Spanish, that means 2 whites. And it was a combination of the Saval and the Vignoles, so sort of like the Blanc et Blanc, just not the bubbly variety. And it was just wonderful, citrusy, pineapple, like a semi-sweet, a little bit of acidity, just kind of all those right notes that I like in a white wine, and just another crowd pleaser, I think.
Yeah, if you're into tropical fruits, like pineapple and other tropical fruits, this is a good one to try.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a wrap of our discussion of Union Cellars. I think we can all say that after a few visits, this winery is not one that disappoints. They have a lovely country setting with a nice diverse variety of wine offerings for every palate. It is one we have visited in the past, and I know we will visit again in the future. For more information, please visit their website, union-cellars.com. You can also find them on social media. While you're on social media, please look us up and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube under Winetime PA. We would also love it if you would help this podcast grow by liking, subscribing, giving us a review, or sharing it with others. Tune in on the first Wine Wednesday of next month as we discuss our visit to another Pennsylvania winery. Until next time, cheers.
Thanks for listening to Wine Time PA with your host Rob, Holly, and Steve. We hope you enjoyed our take on Pennsylvania wineries and all that they have to offer. Please be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast. Also, be sure to follow them on social media for updates and news. Remember, when it comes to wine, drink what you love.